Thank you, Lorenzo, and thank you also for the great event here. I'm sure everyone agrees with me that we had a good time, good location, food, and so on. So I take this opportunity as by the end of the event, everyone is kind of chatting. And yes, I'm trying now to present a little bit from non-very technical perspective. So the people that may know me before, I was mainly giving like technical presentation about Kamailio, but now being into the new ecosystem of the web real-time communication and expecting that many here started their own project or they look to start their own project. You know, I heard about people cooking media soups, launching spaghetti, messaging, and so on using this JavaScripting language. So yeah, Kamailio and the history with a focus on how the community grew and the major let's say intervals of time frames during our development or evolution. And everyone was saying how cool was this new technology with the WebRTC and what you can do with the web, but actually we have been always the cool kids in the real-time communication as open source. So I heard federating. We did it with Kamailio from day zero, right? IP, DNS, no restriction. IPv6, we had it actually since 2002 in the core. And then also WebSocket, which is the part we are involved in for the WebRTC. It's there since like 2012, thanks to the involvement of like Peter Dunkley and even Iñaki, which is around here, had a very important role in this contribution to the project. And I'm trying to follow the David Duffett suggestion about being a better speaker, so I'm not going to give you candies and, you know, all these cookies that Lorenzo took care of, you know, with the lunches and the coffee breaks very well. So now as we grew up, I'm going to give for good question, you know, a free license of Kamailio, and if you have a very good one, you get 2. So don't be ashamed to ask. Anyhow, practically we started in 2001 as I have in the slide, and just to set the timeline, practically it was before the core RFC, the RFC 3261 of SIP, which was released in the summer of 2002. The presentation again is going to be from the point of evolution as an ecosystem, in the way that, you know, over these 18 years of development has been a lot of transformation to the market. A lot of people came, left, returned it, left again, and then technology has evolved a lot. We used to run on big servers that now your phone is probably 100 times more powerful than what we used to pay millions for those boxes back in the day. And demands has increased. Everyone wants more services, cheaper price, more flexibility, more mobility, and so on. So a lot of things has changed during this time. So actually, as I was looking at the past, I was kind of identifying this time frame or eras, I call them, and don't take them as fixed interval between that year and the year I mentioned there, but more like at the beginning, and then the evolution is not really like a border between these eras on that specific year. So how all started, and if you think now that people are doing fast releases, these are the first 3 commits done by Andrei Pălinescu, a developer at that time at the Fraunhofer Focus Institute where the project started. So as you could see, we had 3 commits and the first release ready for production, right? So you see initial revision, parser seems to work, first working release, that was like 23 hours later. So rapid development back in the days was possible. So agile, exactly. Then just as an idea, what were the first modules and extension, which is like the major category of contribution we get to this module. So The first one was more like a sample module, this print, and then it started with text ops. You know, SIP is kind of text-based protocol. Transaction management, which over the years got like the biggest one, and then getting into this feature like authentication, storage, user location. So now back to those days. From what we tried to solve at that time was practically connecting quickly calls, getting, you know, Alice talking with Bob, and in a very let's say performant way, because that was one of the initial goals of the project. So we were more like this SIP routing gun machine. We got SIP in, SIP out as fast as possible, doing a bit of authentication, maybe changing a bit of the SIP request content and so on. No variables, mainly static rules in the configuration file with some predefined keywords, and of course some backend for storing user profiles, as we focused from the beginning for large deployments, so we haven't had like user profile in text file and so on. On the business side of the project was the best time from the developer's point of view, because we were paid by the research institute. Most of us, like the core team and a lot of contributors to some students doing projects related to their graduation thesis or PhD and so on. The first use cases were more like related to the ITF, trying to build a reference implementation, and then in the academic environment with our European research projects. And we saw also like the early stage production deployments, but that time frame. In terms of the community and collaboration, it was when we started to know each other. Again, more like maybe the first 2 years were 99% of the contribution were from the people working for the research institute, with some external patches which were mainly somehow changed a bit and committed also by the developers. The first contributors externally, including Maxim here with the RTP proxy, but I think Juha Heinonen is the first one that was actually not employed by the project, by the research institute, and is still active in our development team and in our ecosystem. What happened in terms of like collaboration from the developer perspective was that we are quite protective. Everyone was kind of marking there, this is my module, you want to do a contribution, hey, submit a patch, I'll review it. I don't like your font, your color of the source code, I will change it to match my schema. On, you know, all these small bits of things. But time passes, the project became popular, and everyone needed to somehow differentiate. It was not like, hey, let's get my two phones calling and then let's try to connect some businesses together. Now everyone tried to do a little bit more. So different shapes of more or less the same kind of services. It was the time when the institute sold the license to a private company from US, like exclusive licensing rights to that company, and we had to create another project. So initially the project was called SIP Express Router. Now we created a fork named OpenSCR. And because of these demands on more flexibility in the configuration file, it's the time where we had this more dynamic approach of building the routing rules. And it's when we got this, what you may know if you are familiar with Kamailio, variables or pseudo variables, transformation, this specific language that we have and we built from scratch. It was also the time interval where this extension focusing on scalability of routing were mainly developed, like load balancing, list code routing. It was also the time for the presence instant messaging, which at the end doesn't really end it as a success story from the standardization point of view. I let you dig in more into this SIP simple extension. A lot of other backends and integration with storage systems, LDAP, Radius happened during this time. On the business side, practically as Focus sold their rights to a private company, they were not allowed to continue and be the main driving force behind the project. And again, that was forcing the community to create this OpenSCR. And as many of the core developers went to the new company, practically it was like shaken of the public ecosystem, of the open source ecosystem. But it was already in the time that there were many businesses relying already into this project. So I can remember like Telio, Vostelecom, SIPgate, they were already using it, and they were willing to pay like consultants, companies, and there were also the times where companies start to build like integrated platforms. So I can name here like SIPwise, a bit later ngVoice, that they started to build out of the box products on top of Kamailio. And then of course guys like me or Ole doing consultancy training, we are from those times doing let's say business related to Kamailio. Again, it was the name of OpenSCR, but as a project name, but I keep it simple and refer to it as Kamailio. Community and collaboration, it was again like a bit of hit into it by this acquisition of the rights by a private company. On the other hand, it has a very good impact on the open source approach and development approach, as the contribution and the previous rules of very protective development has changed in a more open and collaborative environment. And that has been seen in a few years. We really like got a lot of contribution from external people. We got developers from other companies like being working for the project more or less full-time, but paid by different companies. So that was the area where we ended up into being a bit more dynamic. The next one, it's I call it like asynchronous interaction between the components of the network in the VoIP services. We had another issue on the not technical side, so we had to rename OpenSCR to Kamailio because of a trademark issue with another US company. We are not sure if it's really a real claim or not, but we decided not to go in court in US, especially it's quite expensive, most of the developers in Europe. So we practically decided to just go and rename. However, probably most of you remember that in 2007, something really big happened in the communication ecosystem, and practically that would be Apple releasing the iPhone. And that has, from that moment, practically everyone started to shift from like fixed location of their working environment to using mobile and more and more for different needs. So practically from 2008, as again the market started to put a pressure on more mobility as an individual, we had this work on asynchronous in different layers, like transport layer, TCP, TLS, as Ole highlighted the importance of TLS for connecting to the core network. Then from Federico and the team at Libon, we got this extra extension on making it more friendly for the mobile eco environment, mobile world, as Federico liked to name it at a couple of Kamailio conferences. So practically we have this resume of the transaction and wait for registration, fork as you get registration of the existing transaction, and a lot. Of course, integration on the core network for 4G and currently 5G. The IMS extension came at the same, more or less the same time, along with API-driven interaction with the external system, either via REST, HTTP REST, or our own implementation like Event API module and so on. And NoSQL started to be a big thing, and we selected a couple of them to implement in our project. So to clarify what this Kamailio is for the people who are new to this project, so it is Hawaiian name, so is the word for to talk, to have a conversation. And yeah, that's summarizing. So we started from Berlin at SIP Express router in 2001. 2002 was made open source. Then we had to create a fork OpenSCR in 2005, following by a rename 2008. Thinking back of those days, it really looks like a trip from Berlin to Hawaii, and more or less like walking for going there. And we are so famous that now we even have a Kamailio Street in Honolulu. But actually it was before. On the business side, during that era, practically the ecosystem consolidated a lot. After the 2008, 9, 10, a lot of companies had like a strong foundation, and they were relying a lot on Kamailio project, and the big ones started to use. I mentioned already Libon from Orange, France. They were big contributors from that point of view. But then like 1&1 Germany, which is second telecom in Germany with over 12 million, also very active. And we also started our own dedicated event in that time frame. So practically the first edition in 2013 with the planning the year before. Community and collaboration, having the event practically tighten the relation of the community. This form of collaboration where the project is seen as a more non-commercial entity, that everyone, it's more like a satellite business around it, so everyone contributes, everyone is looking for a mutual interest, but somehow they care about their own business, identify as a SIP for business, or SIP-wise, or SIP-gate, or Advina. So everyone is seeing the benefits, and they try to protect the common thing that we rely on it. So it has been seen as a business enabler rather than something that you do and then you have to license yourself or find methods to just monetize Kamailio as a brand or as an application. You have to build add-on services around Kamailio to create, and that made everyone feel safe, everyone trusts the project, everyone was more or less happy with the ecosystem. As we grew a lot, and then the world has changed, and everyone is seeing everything. It's an app now, right? You don't have a phone, you have an app on your mobile. You don't have a database. There is some interface that you have to interconnect via some API, and you don't know if it's stored in Germany or in US, and you don't care about. You care about the application. You care about the services you want to offer to your customers. So practically now we had a large number of contributors from a diversity, a set of companies, because I do maybe consultancy and trainings like Ole, but SIP-wise has like telephony platform. Then Evarista system has another kind of platform targeting North American numbering services and so on and so forth. So microphone. Oh, sorry. So that practically made us looking at what we can do and attract new people, especially that also communication has shifted a lot into the web world, where C, which is our programming language, is not like the major programming language. So finding a C programmer is probably really hard. So we also focused at this time, because of the cloud and so on distribution and integration, like a distributed message queue, and to give more control and actually enable more people to use Kamailio, we added these scripting languages, which I will have to present a bit more in details in the next slide. Now, as cloud communication took or started to be very popular, we had these OTT apps, cloud-based services like Kazoo platform and similar like that, or RTC API services such as Nexmo, as they were sponsoring here, and thanks for that again. Then the ecosystem practically it's now really solid from this point of view, And we even started to have our second yearly event, like developers meeting. So besides the user conference, which is Kamailio World, we have this developers meeting face-to-face for 2 days or so. We'll be in Düsseldorf this year in mid-November, but this is creating even more collaboration and creates stronger environment. We got more and more people going at different events to present about Kamailio or about how they use Kamailio. So as you already noticed, some other companies here say it explicitly, hey, we rely on Kamailio and so on, which is good. That didn't really happen many years ago. And others started to publish blog posts. They started to share the information of using it on cloud or on containers and the new infrastructure that Giacomo and Federico are trying to present before. In terms of the development, we still have a strong high pace stroke of development. So releases are like 9-11 months, and then every time around maybe 7-8 modules, so in between 5 and 10 with every release. I got here the screenshot just a few minutes before the talk because I found interesting that we have 1,000 stars. So it took only 18 years to get there, but apparently we are ahead of other real-time communication related projects. And again, if you want to contribute, we are a really open community, and you have the chance to have the 13,000 commit soon. So prepare your contribution, be ready to push it when it's the time, and you can have a really good otherwise, as community here on the right lower side, for example, for the last month we had like 18 developers that pushed 160 commits in the master, which is our development branch, and overall we backport to stable branches and so on even more. So again, it's a very lively environment in terms of community development, and you are welcome to join us. Just focusing on what's the current situation or the focus. Practically, you are in the last era I mentioned with the apps. So we focus a lot on giving you more control and enabling you to use your favorite language for controlling that. So practically is about this Kemi, which is Kamailio Embedded Interface, allowing you to use scripting languages that maybe you are more familiar with. And I have a summary here, so you can use now Python, you can use Ruby, JavaScript, Lua to build the routing logic or the application logic for the real-time communication using SIP and Kamailio. If you are familiar with our native scripting language, which was built from scratch, so you have on the left side that one, and on the right side the Lua variant. So practically it's quite similar. You should be easy to upgrade your module or your configuration if you prefer to use now Python or Lua, because Python and Lua enable you to use external modules, external libraries to connect with whatever API or whatever backend was released yesterday, and we don't have the resources to develop it over the like C module and so on. And another example with a bit more Lua coding, where you can again plug your own Lua specific code, like searching on or replacing a string or whatever you need to do. So altogether it's about now more control. You had the control, but now it's in the way you maybe preferred more than our scripting language. And I know that many people here in the room are happy that they can use Lua or Python for their new services. As we are at the WebRTC related conference, and I try to summarize. As I said, Kamailio was quite early in this WebRTC world with the WebSocket extension, and then of course for the client side you need to use a JavaScript library, where Jose and Iñaki did a good job by having this JSIP. And then another important application that if you are not aware of, look at it, because RTP engine is really a great one and can help you to build a gateway between WebRTC and classic SIP with Kamailio and for signaling, and RTP engine for media. So encryption, decryption, de-icing, and all that one. So you practically connect the classic SIP with the WebRTC. Different use cases. So if you just want to call browser to browser, it's no need for anything. You can just use it with a SIP client on the browser, pass it to Kamailio, will take care of authentication and all the related things there. I'm ending here by announcing practically we did it this week on Monday, the dates for the next event. So it will be at the end of the April 2020. It's where the Institute is still involved. So it's done together with the Fraunhofer Focus and a nice location in Berlin. If you want to come and learn more about Kamailio, you are welcome to join. And before taking question, I want to clarify that question that was highlighted or statement. So I've seen it on the first presentation first, they like say no to whatever on pizza. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, maybe we should do it. But last evening we were out eating pizza around the corner, and guess what? Now, if you can't put pineapples on pizza, how can you put this on pizza on Napoli around the corner? Thank you.
That's a very fair point. Thanks for your excellent presentation, Daniel. And definitely, I'll try and submit something again, because I've been to the past few events. I love coming to Kamailio World, and if you have never been there, I definitely encourage you to join the event. It's always excellent content. The venue is beautiful. The area is beautiful as well. Do we have any questions for Daniel?
Actually, I had another pizza. We wanted to order one and bring it here, but together with Dan and David and Pascom guys, we said, okay, maybe it's getting too cold till tomorrow. And by lunchtime it was raining, because I was still thinking I should go and order one. Okay, guys, thank you. If you want to ask me, I will be around full day today. And otherwise, thank you, Lorenzo, again for this great event, and looking forward to meet you soon somewhere else.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
And by the way, Lorenzo should start how the geeks should speak fast enough to fit slides in